sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make a point of staying up on this night and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just like he used to on the other nights of Ramadan. And in other ahadith, it's mentioned that this night is the night of the prize or the award, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks his angels that, "Oh my angels, what should be the reward of the worker who has been hired to do work and has done his job well?" So the angels say that, "Oh Allah, he should receive his payment in full." So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them that, "I want you to be my witness that I have forgiven all of those people. I have forgiven those people who have fulfilled my obligations in this month and those who are engaged in worship even now." So that night angels go out and they announce the maghfirah of the people who fasted and did good in Ramadan. And in some narrations it's even called Laylatul Ja'iza, the night of the prize or the award. So this is a night not to be missed. In fact, all the four A'immah, and in their books of fiqh, they have mentioned that it is mustahab to get up and do ibadah in this night. There's no ikhtilaf in this. So everyone should make an attempt to do some worship themselves, but also to get their families involved. And this is where it gets tricky, because someone's decorating the home, people are taking out their clothing and making preparations and food and all of those things. That's fine. But at least some time should be dedicated to ibadah also. It should not be a complete breaking free from everything. It should not be like that either. Keeping in mind that the next day, the day of Eid, is first a day of ibadah, and that ibadah is giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then it's a day of celebration. That's the sequence. لِتُكَبِّرُ اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ. So these extra takbirat that we have, and how we're supposed to leave our homes saying the takbir, and the masnoon takbir, which is mentioned in ahadith, is simply this much: Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Wallahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd. This is the masnoon takbir. Some people have added other things, and there is no harm in saying those things, but it should not be considered an obligation that everyone must say this takbir and everyone must be made to recite it. This is not necessary. If somebody says it, alhamdulillah, they're all good kalimat. Allahu Akbar kabira, walhamdulillahi kathira, wa subhanallahi bukratan wa asila, la ilaha illallah wahda, sadaqa wa'da, wa nasara abda, wa hazama al-ahzaba wahda. These are all good kalimat. There's no harm in any of this. It's just that some people get the impression that it's necessary to recite this on Eid or before Salatul Eid, and it's not. The other thing is that what we find in the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is that when he used to leave his house for Eid al-Fitr, he would recite the takbirat softly. So the takbirat of Eid al-Fitr should be recited softly, and the takbirat of Eid al-Adha should be recited out loud. This is also something we find in ahadith. And the Prophet ﷺ used to have something to eat before going for Salatul Eid. Usually he would have an odd number of dates. So we can have dates, we can have something sweet, anything you can eat and then make our way. And everyone knows the famous sunnahs of Eid, wear your best clothes. And when we say wear our best clothes, we should wear clothes that are representative of Islam. Those are the best clothes that we have, to be very honest. The best clothes we have are those that bring out the Islam and amplify the Islam in us. And I'll explain why in a couple of minutes, why I'm emphasizing this. And of course, taking a bath and using miswak and tidying up, all of those things, trying to come early to the place of Eid and engaging in dhikr and takbirat. This is the main dhikr before salat. It's the takbirat of Eid. And there are no nafil salawat. There is no nafil before Salatul Eid. Neither in the masjid, or when we get to the musalla, or even in cases where where the Eid Salat is held in the masjid itself, there is no nafil before Salatul Eid on the day of Eid. There's no ishraq. Okay? And there is no nafil after Salatul Eid at the place of Salat. You can pray at home as much as you want, as many nawafil as you want. So it's not established from Sunnah anywhere that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ever prayed his nawafil of ishraq or any other nafil between Fajr and Salatul Eid. So this is also from the Sunnah. Putting on perfume, this is for men. Putting on the good clothing, that is for men when it comes to Salatul Eid. And for women, it is not mentioned anywhere that they should adorn themselves while coming for Salatul Eid. This is not mentioned anywhere. Rather, we find that the Prophet ﷺ, on the one hand, he gave targheeb for everyone to come for Salatul Eid. Everyone, even women that were in those days where they do not pray, even those women, he said, you bring them to the musalla. And what would they do there? They would sit apart from the women that were praying salat, behind those women that were praying salat, to the side. But they would recite the takbirat when everyone was reading the takbirs. And the hadith clearly mentions that they partake in the takbirs and they partake in the dua of the Muslims. So the dua that's being made, for example, in the khutbah, to partake in that dua and to be present at that, at that blessed gathering. And the gathering of Eid is in fact a very blessed gathering. So, however, when the Prophet ﷺ gave this instruction, women asked the Prophet ﷺ that, "O Prophet of Allah, some of us don't have a jilbab." Jilbab is the outer garment that completely covers the body and it covers the clothing. Jilbab is not your primary dress that you wear underneath. Jilbab is what you wear over your clothes. And this could be in the form of a long sheet that covers the whole body, or like in our, as is common today, what we call the burqa. This is the outer garment that covers the inner garments. And it completely conceals the woman. So Sahabiyat asked that some of us don't have that. So this tells us two things. That they were worried that when we come for salat, that's how we are supposed to come for salat. For any salat. When we come, we're supposed to come completely covered, not adorning ourselves and wearing our fanciest clothes and showing that, but rather covering ourselves. So, Prophet of Allah, some of us don't have that, and because of that, they would not normally come for salat. But you are encouraging everyone to come, so how should we come if we don't have that type of extra clothing? So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that لِتُلْبِسْهَا أُخْتُهَا مِنْ جَلَابِيبِهَا. Her sister or her friend should loan her extra jilbab. So what is this telling us? That the dress code for Salatul Eid for women, it's not a dress of that's flagrant, that's flashy, and all of those things. No, all of that is for when they go back to their homes, in their home setting. They can adorn themselves with jewelry and makeup and all of those things for their family members. And for their female friends, there's no harm in doing this. But the idea is not to bring this to the place of salat, because we are coming there for an act of worship. And yes, there's no harm in meeting each other and greeting each other and making dua for each other and being happy to see each other on the day of Eid, as everyone does. But, and this may sound a little bit harsh, but it's not a fashion show. It's just not. And the idea is not to attract the attention of other people who normally would not pay any attention to them, but the woman is dressed in such a way that she's turning people's heads. So this is not a part of Salatul Eid. Unfortunately, it has become a part of Salatul Eid. And when things reach that level, then there is a very difficult environment that's created. A very difficult environment. And here we are coming to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but compromising the commands of Allah, compromising the limits of our deen. And it's very highly inappropriate. And in many places where it's close proximity, the entrances and the exits are close, and men and women are bumping into each other or walking by each other at a very close distance, then it's a very inappropriate situation. And this is why then the ulama start saying, no, don't bring your women for Eid Salat. It's just not appropriate for them. That is when they have to step in. No scholar will ever knowingly contradict the hadith of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, ever. But the thing is that there is something called saddu dhara'i' in Sharia, which is to close the doors of fitan. There are young men coming, young women coming, and they're completely adorned and beautified as if they're coming to a wedding, or sometimes as if they're coming to their own wedding. And we say, what do we expect? So this is against the nature of the ibadah that we are coming for. And if women are having difficulty in doing this, in coming to salat in a simple way, or the environment is such, then women don't need to come. And women do not need to come for Salat al-Eid. It's better they stay at home and preserve these commandments which are fard, which are necessary. Another very important point is sadaqatul fitr or zakatul fitr. This must be paid before Salatul Eid. If a person has not paid it before Salatul Eid, then they still must pay it after Salatul Eid as well, but it is not the same. In fact, they will incur the sin of not paying that on time. And this sadaqatul fitr or zakatul fitr is for the sake of, it's for two things that hadith mentioned. One is, it is tuhratan lisa'im. It is a way of cleansing the fasting person from any mistakes that may have been made during the course of fasting. Any errors, somebody backbited, somebody did not guard their gaze, anything that would hinder the acceptance of the fast, to get rid of those through sadaqah. This is one objective. The other is that the poor people, the people that are not privileged, they have something with which they can celebrate their Eid. And the idea is to get that to them. This is why we encourage paying it in advance, so that the funds reach those families, those eligible families, for the day of Eid. Whereas if we were to pay it, if we haven't, then we must pay it, even on the day of Eid before Salat. But then that amount will not get to those families in time for them to celebrate their Eid. Buying gifts for their family members, having good food and things like that. We should want others to celebrate Eid the way we celebrate our own Eid. Okay? And this is due upon a person on behalf of themselves and on behalf of those children of theirs who are not baligh, those children of theirs who have not reached the age of maturity. It is not wajib to pay it on behalf of one's wife. It is not necessary. It is not a man's responsibility to discharge it. But if he does, it is okay. It is acceptable with her permission. Or usually in our circles, it's an expectation from the wife that the husband is going to pay. So the permission is already there. So you don't have to go and ask her. Rather, you should ask her, are you going to pay or not? But usually it's taken for granted that the man is going to pay. And there's no harm in this. And similarly, one does not have to pay on behalf of those children that are baligh. But if those children are not earning for themselves yet, and so on and so forth, then it's okay if you pay on their behalf. It is given to the same people that zakat is given. It is given to the eligible poor people. And this sadaqatul fitr is it's an amana. If there are masajid or organizations that are collecting it, they need to make sure they get it out in time. They cannot hold on to those funds. So if any one of you is working with an organization, make sure that those funds, the sadaqatul fitr, zakatul fitr, is not for running the masjid. Okay, it's not for the masjid expenses. It's not for the salary of the imam. It's not for any of those things. That money is just a trust, an amana in the hands of that masjid or that organization. They need to get it out. They need to get rid of it right away. It's for that specific purpose, to get to the poor people so that they can have it for Eid. Now moving on with the Eid. So obviously there is the Salatul Eid. There's no adhan, there's no iqamah. And then there is the khutbah. And the khutbah is it's a necessary part of the ibadah of that day. So if a person were to pray the salat but not stay for the khutbah, they would not get the reward of the full reward of their ibadah. In fact, some fuqaha have written that they won't even get the reward of their salat because the khutbah is a part of that ibadah. These are not separate components, rather it's all one worship. It's all one worship that has two parts. And the adab of the khutbah of Eid is just like, it's the same as the adab, the etiquettes, the requirements for the khutbah of Jum'ah. After that, normally people meet each other, and there's nothing wrong with meeting each other and making dua. Sahaba radiyallahu anhum used to make dua for each other. تَقَبَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنَّا وَمِنْكُمْ صَالِحَ الْأَعْمَالِ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our good deeds. And it's perfectly fine to meet each other. It's not a requirement that you have to hug everyone, nor is this something that's necessary to do, especially in the place of Eid. Some people have started considering it a duty and obligation, where they have to hug absolutely everyone, and if somebody does not hug them, if they miss someone, they consider it to be wrong. It's not that important. Meeting and greeting is perfectly fine, but it's okay if you miss someone, or someone doesn't come up to you and hug you. Don't take it personally. Don't take it as an offense. Now, the rest of the day of Eid, there are some things that we need to pay attention to, especially being in the West. The first thing is, I talked about coming for Salatul Eid in clothing that is representative of Islam. Why? This was actually the reason why Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam encouraged women to come to the musalla, even those who were not praying, so that the numbers of Muslims and the strength of Muslims would become apparent to other people. Our presence becomes known. Our presence as Muslims, not our presence as human beings. Our presence in communities becomes known. It becomes sort of magnified and amplified on that day. That's why we should come out dressed like Muslims, in dress that would normally be characteristic of a Muslim. And to show those numbers, we encourage everyone to come. And this is in fact the reason why one of the sunnahs of Salatul Eid, or you can say it's mustahab, it's proven from the sunnah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that he would go to the masjid taking one route and come back from another route. Why? So that people in different parts of the city could see him. This was the wisdom behind it that the muhaddithin have mentioned. So that the presence of the Muslims is everywhere. It's not even just on that one road that they would normally take. It's everywhere. So people who are walking by and observing, they see that, mashallah, there are these Muslims. So this is a day of really showing our Islam. This is not a day of hiding and concealing our Islam. It's a day of really, really showing it and being open about it. The other very important aspect is the family aspect of this. Eid needs to be made something enjoyable for the whole family. This is extremely important. We cannot emphasize this enough. There are too many Muslim families that are spending Eid in a very cold way. In a very cold way. There is nothing special happening. The man of the house will go, pray his Eid Salat, come back, change his clothes, life will go on. Some people will go right back to work, and life just goes on. And there is nothing really big happening. This does an immense amount of damage to the morale of our children and our youngsters, where they don't see anything. What happens when Christmas comes around, when New Year's comes around, when all of these other occasions come around? Look at what a big fuss is made about it. It's everywhere. When Valentine's Day comes around, you cannot ignore it. No matter where you go into any store, they are trying to push something on the theme of Valentine's Day. When Halloween, you guys have Halloween here? Yeah? Okay.
It's just being imported.
In our country, the Halloween, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how much it's emphasized. Our children are seeing that. They're seeing it every day. It's talked about in schools. And everyone is talking about what they're going to do for Halloween, what they're going to do for Christmas, what they're going to do for such occasion. There is so much excitement built around it. Even our children who know that they're not going to be celebrating that in their homes, they get excited about it. So when Eid comes around, we should create such an excitement that even the non-Muslim friends of our children feel excited that Eid is coming. Eid should show. Eid should be visible, and it should be something where we are planning a lot of very special things. Look, that hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, where there were some people doing these army drills and sort of stunts and tricks in the masjid with their spears and whatnot. That was a day of Eid. That was a day of Eid where this sports kind of activity had been organized, and there were people, there were spectators. And even Aisha radiallahu anha was watching from her house. So, having fun activities. Our deen is not that dry that we can't enjoy ourselves, we can't have fun, we can't have good, solid recreation. Our deen is not like that. It doesn't teach us to be like that. So for Eid, we should plan things like this. Whether it's in the form of an outing with the family, whether it's a whole bunch of families getting together, or it's a whole community doing something together, our children should feel that this is the most special day of the year. They need to feel that. And yes, give them gifts and spend on them and buy new clothes for them and make a big fuss about Eid. There should be a lot of excitement, a big buzz in our families that no, it's Eid. This is the most important celebration for us. Like the Prophet ﷺ said, لِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ عِيدٌ وَهَذَا عِيدُنَا. Everyone has a celebration. This is our celebration. So take ownership of it, take pride in it, and organize things, plan things, do things in a good way. And as communities also, as communities we need to start organizing our Eids in such a way that it's enjoyable for everyone. And there's one category of people that unfortunately many communities completely neglect, and that is our new Muslim brothers and sisters. We are enjoying, with our friends, with our families. But what about those people who've actually left their families for the sake of Islam, who don't have anyone to support them? And this is a cry that comes from many revered brothers and sisters. We feel so alone. In fact, we feel worse on the day of Eid because we see everyone meeting and greeting each other, going to each other's houses and exchanging, all of this love and inviting each other. And, no one asks us. No one talks to us. We come for Salatul Eid, we go back and we spend the rest of the day in solitude. Neither can we meet our family because they have left us. We don't have any support from them, nor can we intermingle with the Muslims because they're too busy socializing with their own friends. So this should be taken into very serious consideration. We should not be creating an environment that's making it difficult for these people. We should be welcoming them with open arms. So as communities, we have a lot to do in terms of developing our programs for Eid, which are of a fun nature, of a recreational nature, and a purely social nature. There's nothing wrong with any of that as long as we stay within the limits of deen. And yes, just because it's Eid, it does not mean that now we have been freed from all the all the bonds of Islam and all the duties of Islam. There are many people who will come for Eid. In fact, the largest congregations of the Muslims ever in the whole year are those of Eid. But the sad fact is many of them are coming without having prayed their Fajr. They did not get up for Fajr, which is a fard upon every single person. But they will travel. Some of them will travel an hour. And some of them will park far away and walk long distances to make it for Salatul Eid, which is not even compulsory on every single person who is not able to do so. Salatul Eid is, yes, it is wajib, but Salatul Fajr is fard for the whole life. So this is also another very serious matter, that in this mode of excitement, we forget about the basic obligations, which never change. They are constants in our lives. And then what happens after Salatul Eid? So many people, they're busy socializing. Everyone's saying Eid Mubarak, kullu aam wa antum bi khair, Eid Sa'id. What kind of Eid Sa'id is it when you didn't pray your Fajr before Salatul Eid? You didn't pray your Zuhr or any other Salat after Eid. What kind of Eid Sa'id is this? And what kind of Eid Mubarak is this? It's not Mubarak. It's not Mubarak for that individual who became ghafil the moment Ramadan left. So these are some of the aspects that we should keep in mind and observe and bring them back to our families. And may Allah Azza wa Jal accept our ibadat and enable us to complete this month of Ramadan in the best way. Look, al-a'malu bil khawatim. Actions are rewarded based on how they are completed. There are many people who start out an act in a very beautiful way, and they're so diligent and particular about everything, but the way they end it is not so great. And that's what happens with a lot of people in Ramadan. Just because Eid is around the corner, they forget the fact that, no, I need to first get a seal of acceptance on this month. I need to make sure that I see this month through right till the end. And of course, the best way to do that, as I mentioned, is to spend that night of Eid in ibadah, in dua, in istighfar, in begging Allah to accept whatever was done and give us tawfiq. And like the ulama have mentioned, you may have heard this over and over again, the sign of the acceptance of Ramadan, the sign of the acceptance of our Ramadan is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us istiqamah in our religious duties going forward after Ramadan. Allah enables us to remain firm and steadfast in our obligations like salat and so on and so forth. And Allah gives us istiqamah in staying away from haram and staying away from sins. This is a sign that the Ramadan was accepted. And if it wasn't, then then the sign of that is that right after Ramadan, they just as if they had been broken free from chains, and now they're rampant. But the fact is, it's the shayateen that are broken free from their chains. The shayateen were sulsilat, they were chained up in this month of Ramadan. They're the ones who go rampant, not us. We're not the ones that are supposed to do that. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us tawfiq and bring the barakat of this month into our families and make this Eid a happy and prosperous and joyous one for all of us and our families. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. It needs to be given before. It needs to be given before. Paid. It needs to be paid before. हो जाएगा. It's not a requirement, but it is the purpose of the sadaqatul fitr. So that's why we should try to give it earlier. But if somebody gives it even before Salatul Eid, it's fine. It's acceptable.
किसी को पहुंच जाता है वो उससे पहले और एक ऐसी जगह पे आप देते हैं कि जहाँ पे उसके बाद डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होता है इसमें से बेटर कौन सा?
Both are acceptable. Both are acceptable. अगर ईद के 1-2 दिन बाद भी, even if it reaches them on the second day of Eid, on the third day of Eid, it's still, part of Eid. It's acceptable. Walaikum assalam. Aaj streaming nahi hui. It didn't work. No, it didn't work.
No, it did work.
It was working for you?
Yeah, I know. I just saw it. There's a sending it, but I don't know where the voice is.
Brother Khurram didn't put it on.
Oh, Khurram did it. Okay.
He had to manually log in or something.
Okay, no.
But I don't know where it started from. I'll have a look.
Yeah, he has the access from the back end.
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah. I did an audio just in case.
The cat and man has to be given all at once.